From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Nwawodo.
Welcome. Tonight, Senate asks state and local governments to immediately comply with the Supreme Court judgment, particularly relating to local government accounts and the funds given directly to them. House of Representatives mandated Constitution Review Committees to organize public hearings with a view to addressing permanently the delay in justice delivery in Nigeria. And the Niger Delta Power Holding Company of Nigeria urges the Togolese electricity company to pay up its outstanding debts owed Nigeria in the power purchase agreement between both countries.
Business news, major telecom operators call for immediate increase in telecom tariff to enable improvement in the quality of service offered to delivery to end users.
And from the nation's capital, the central bank restated commitment to ensuring funding of business owned by women. Governor of the Apex Bank, Mr. Olayemi Cardoso.
Rival Ghana will battle for a ticket for the 2025 African Nations Championship following the draws made earlier today in Cairo.
State and local governments should immediately comply with the Supreme Court judgment, particularly relating to accounts of local government areas and the funds given directly to them. The Senate also resolved to take immediate steps to alter sections of the Constitution to give full autonomy to local government administration in the country. The resolutions announced by the Deputy Senate President, Senator Jibrin Barau, after lawmakers reconvened from a closed-door session where the chamber debated alleged attempts by some states to circumvent the July 11 ruling of the Supreme Court. Our National Assembly correspondent, Gloria Umezoke, reports.
At the commencement of plenary on the second legislative day of the week, lawmakers almost immediately became embroiled in a matter of urgent national importance raised by Senator Tony Nwoye. He alleged that states are tampering with local government funds through the instrumentality of the state houses of assembly.
Few of these state governors or state governments continue to manipulate the state house of assembly to enact laws that require local governments upon receipt of this federal allocation from federation account to remit all or majority or substantial part of the allocation to a dedicated account.
The atmosphere became chaotic as arguments and points of orders prevailed. Some lawmakers noted points of ambiguity in the law.
There is urgent need to amend Section 7 of 1999 Constitution as amended to further guarantee the autonomy of local government. I believe discussing this issue will amount to overclouding it, or overflooding the issue.
This led to a number of senators approaching the president of the Senate. Eventually, the House resolves to dissolve into an executive session. Upon resumption, 2 resolutions are adopted.
All tiers of government in the Federation should immediately comply with the recently pronounced judgments of the Supreme Court of Nigeria, particularly relating to local government accounts, and then the funds of local government going directly to the local governments for its utilization to improve the lot of Nigerians. And I assure you that the 10th Senate, working with our colleagues in the House of Representatives, will alter any aspect of our Constitution, amend any section of our laws to ensure full autonomy.
In another motion raised by Senator Ireti Kingibe, the plight of the Nigerian girl child becomes the nodal point. She raises the urgent need for intervention by the federal government to save the future of Nigerian girls.
Girl-child marriages remains prevalent across Nigeria, with the northern zones showing alarming statistics. Convinced that the continued marginalization of the Nigerian girl child threatens the future development of the country.
How well have we done in actually seeking support for their empowerment?
The upper chamber then adopts resolutions on a motion which comes 2 days ahead of the International Day of the Girl Child, observed on October 11 every year.
To declare a state of emergency on the protection and welfare of the girl child to address the educational, health, and safety needs of the young girls across the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
Meanwhile, the senators agreed to issue a warrant of arrest to about 5 heads of agencies that have refused to comply with summons by the Committee on Ethics and Privileges to serve as a deterrence in the future to others. From the National Assembly, Gloria Umezuke, Channels Television News.
The Association of Local Governments of Nigeria, ALGON, has elected the chairman of Keita Local Government Area of Katsina State, Mr. Bello Lawal, as the new president of the association. The election took place during the National Executive Council meeting of the association held in Lafia, the Nasarawa state capital. It follows the expiration of the tenure of the former chairman of Lafia Local Government Area, Mr. Minu Maifata. Mr. Lawal was elected alongside other officials to head the association.
Our administration will focus on grassroots development to empower local communities through sustainable projects and initiatives. We will prioritize initiatives that will promote economic growth, infrastructure development, and social welfare at the local level. Basic education will be accorded prominent priority in our agenda to enhance access to quality education for all. We will work to improve access to quality of education, enhance teacher training, and provide necessary resources for our children to thrive at the grassroots. Primary health care will be strengthened in terms of infrastructure to ensure we provide capacity building to healthcare personnel in order to provide improved well-being for our people at the grassroots level. We will work to ensure accessibility and quality of healthcare at the primary level. We will also work collaboratively with the federal government and particularly our leaders, the state governors, to improve security at the grassroots level. Together, we will work towards a brighter future for our local governments and the people we serve.
The House of Representatives has mandated its constitution review committees to organize private hearing and public hearings with a view to addressing the delay in justice delivery in Nigeria permanently and restore the confidence in the judiciary. This is sequel to a motion raised by Honorable Ganiyu Ayuba, drawing the attention to cases in trial courts that should have been resolved within months but have lasted 4 to 5 years before judgment delivery. In the meantime, the House has mandated its Committee on Works to ascertain the cause of continuous building collapse and proffer lasting solutions to curb the menace. A National Assembly correspondent, Terry Ikumi, reports.
The issue of delayed justice delivery is in focus in the Green Chamber, as Honorable Ganiyu Ayuba craves the indulgence of his colleagues to review Nigeria's justice and judicial system in order to restore public trust and address the delay in justice delivery. The lawmaker highlights that the public's confidence in the court system may be damaged if immediate action is not taken.
The House is further worried that situation where suspects languish in detention for years awaiting trial, where chieftaincy cases lasted for years in court, leaving communities without head, and where commercial litigation spans years in court unresolved, they are bane to our democratic and economic growth.
The motion receives the support of the House, and an amendment is made by the Deputy Speaker.
To have people languishing in prisons for a case that is maximum of 6 months, but have stayed up to 2 years imprisonment waiting trial.
Asking for a public hearing should come as urgently as possible because the outcome of such hearings may have to still go to the Constitutional Review Committee, subject to the bill being moved and passed in this House.
We are going to have a public hearing that will have people deliberate on all the issues submitted through the memoranda that we receive, bordering on the judiciary space, to now demand for another public hearing on the issue that the Constitution Review Committee is already handling and will be calling for a public hearing will amount to duplication of work.
Another motion considered in the House is the need to investigate the menace of incessant building collapse in Nigeria.
Mandates the Ministry of Works Committee to ascertain the causes of the incessant building collapse and provide lasting solution to curb the menace of and report back to the House within 4 weeks for further legislative action.
In the meantime, the House is calling for the full implementation of the Exports Prohibition Act to curb food smuggling and ensure food security in the country.
The need to address the current food crisis by enforcing the Export Prohibition Act 2004 to prevent food exportation, ensure food availability, and reduce the cost of living for Nigerians.
The Green Chamber is worried that the failure to implement the said legislation over time has led to severe food shortages, high food prices, increased food insecurity, and loss of revenue for farmers and the federal government. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
A former deputy governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Edward Adamu, has told the Federal Capital Territory High Court Abuja that a former governor of the bank, Godwin Emefiele, did not follow laid-down procedure in the process that led to the redesign of some notes of the Nigerian currency. Led in examination by counsel to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Rotimi Oyedepo, Mr. Adamu also says that the redesign of the Naira notes launched by former President Buhari and currently in circulation was not the one approved by the president or the board of the CBN. Mr. Adamu was testifying in the suit instituted by the EFCC against Mr. Emefiele, where he is accused of redesigning the 200, 500 and 1,000 Naira notes without the approval of the president and the CBN board. After a cross-examination, Justice Marianne Aneni adjourned the suit to November the 17th for continuation of trial. Meanwhile, the absence of Justice Emeka Nwite of the Federal High Court Abuja has stalled the ruling of a fresh bail application filed by the detained Binance Holdings Limited executive Tigran Gambarian, a matter which was fixed for ruling on his bail request could not proceed as Justice Nwite was set to have gone for the ongoing seminar at the National Judicial Institute Abuja. The ruling was subsequently fixed for October the 11th. Counsel to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Mr. Kelehian Nacho, had on September the 4th opposed the bail application moved by Mr. Gabriel. The counsel, Mark Mordi, Mr. Nacho, who argued that the Binance executive was being given the best medical treatment by the Nigeria Correctional Service, alleged that he at one time rejected the medical intervention by the State House Clinic in Abuja. He stated despite Mr. Gabriel's ill health was not at worst as it was being portrayed, the report showed the defendant was dissatisfied with the medical attention being offered and rejected it. The newly appointed Commissioner of Police in Rivers State, Bala Mustafa, has promised to restore peace and normality to the state following the arson attacks that enveloped the 3 different local council secretariats. CP Mustafa made this known at an inspection visit to Port Harcourt, Obiopo, Ikwere, Emohua, and Eleme local government councils, where he went to see for himself the level of destruction there. We'll definitely bring you that report after the break in just a moment. When the news at 10 returns, the Niger Delta Power Holding Company of Nigeria urges the Togolese electricity company to put up its outstanding debt owed Nigeria in the power purchase agreement between both countries. Please join us again. Let's now bring you more details about the story we told you earlier on the visit of the newly appointed Commissioner of Police in Rivers State, Bala Mustafa, to the local government councils that witnessed arson attacks.
The new Rivers State Police boss, Bala Mustafa's first official activity is an inspection to the local government secretariats affected by Monday's arson and violent attacks. His first ports of call are the urban Port Harcourt local government and Obiabo local government. While these 2 councils didn't suffer any arson attacks, there were gunshots at Obiabo. He is received by the new chairman, Ezebumwo Ichemati and Chijuki Ihuo, respectively. From there, the CP moves on to Emoha to see the extent of the damage caused by the fire. Here, he interacts with some of the staff of the council. From there to Isiobu, council headquarters of Ikwiri local government, the damage to the brand new facility is massive. He, however, promises that he's here to bring peace to the state and will be reaching out to both warring parties in the coming days.
I am preaching the gospel of peace to them. I am a peacemaker. I am an ambassador of peace. I am a represented peace and blessing are for peacemakers. So my message to them is we should collaborate with everybody in the state to ensure safety and security, to maintain law and order, to have peace in the state.
The CP reveals that he has served in Rivers before now and is very familiar with the terrain. He says there is relative peace in most parts of the state and he intends to keep it that way.
From Abonnement to this place up to Eche, it's not volatile as we claim it to be. There's a relative peace and we'll continue to assure the public of their safety. We'll collaborate with all the critical stakeholders, both state and non-state actors, to ensure safety and security of the entire state.
He rounds off his inspection with a visit to Eleme, where he's also met by the chairman, Brian Gokba, who accompanies him round the council secretariat. It's safe to see that the new CP has his work cut out for him, but he makes it clear that he is determined to restore peace and sanity to his new state. House Operum, Channels Television News.
We head to Edo State now, where some residents who are members of the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, in Abuja have staged a peaceful protest to the headquarters of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, asking the Edo State PDP governorship candidate to be given unfettered access to all information relating to the September 21 governorship election. The protesters alleged that INEC in Edo State is denying the PDP candidate, Mr. Asuego Dalo, access to the INEC results viewing portal and the bimodal voter system, the BVAS, which was deployed for election.
Some members of the People's Democratic Party, PDP in Edo State, who are resident in Abuja, laid a protest to the INEC headquarters. Singing solidarity songs in support of the PDP governorship candidate for the September 21 election, the protesters marched to the gate of INEC in Abuja. The demonstrators are demanding unfettered access to some of the documents that the electoral umpire used during the election in Edo State.
Even the IREF did not tally with what INEC announced. We have then now moved forward by applying for CTCs or for ECHAs and several other documents, only for us to get court orders, which we have served on INEC, and for the state direct to continue to delay us and play all sorts of tactics.
The group believes access to the documents will enable the candidate of the party to prosecute his case against the outcome of the election in court.
We, the citizens of Edo State, resident in Abuja, have come with a protest letter to say you must redeem your image again by allowing us have unfettered access to all materials used in this election as we approach the tribunal. We need the right people that have been elected by the people to be installed. That is why we are here demanding that Aswe Oge mandate be returned.
Some national commissioners were on ground to receive their petition, promising to give adequate attention to their requests.
INEC is a law-abiding organization. It's a commission that is established by law and will follow the rule of law. Will not deviate. We don't have candidate, we don't have political party. This one, be rest assured, what I'm telling you is what is the commission.
However, the Edo State Independent National Electoral Commission's resident electoral commissioner, Mr. Anungbum Onoa, has denied complicity in the allegation against him by the PDP that he resisted requests to gain access to the BVAS inspection. A statement signed by Mr. Onoa described the PDP allegation as baseless, misleading, and devoid of the truth.
Away from politics to the power sector, the managing director of the Niger Delta Power Holding Company of Nigeria, engineer Jennifer Adige, is asking the Togolese electricity company to pay up its outstanding debts owed Nigeria in the power purchase agreement between both countries. She stated this at a meeting with the management of the company in Lomé, the capital of Togo. She also revealed that the huge debts running into millions of dollars stalled investments in Nigeria's power sector. The Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria, ICAN, is asking the federal government to, as a matter of urgency, establish a National Economic Recovery Committee to analyze the current state of economy and come up with immediate actionable recommendations. The president of ICAN, Mr. Davidson Alaribe, gave this suggestion at the opening ceremony of the 54th Annual Accountants Conference in Abuja. He also says the theme for the conference, Governance Reimagined, Mapping the Future, could not be more timely. He believes that governance still remains a huge challenge for the federal governments in the country. Over 6,000 financial experts gather in this hall for the 54th Annual Accounting Conference organized by the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria. The conference aims at exploring issues on economic reforms, nation building, human capital development, amongst others.
As we map the future of governance, we must remain steadfast in our commitment to upholding the highest ethical standards. Through initiatives like this annual conference, ICAN is helping to shape the future of governance and the accounting profession in Nigeria.
The reforms are required for the long-run economic transformation of the country and to foster sustainable prosperity for our citizens. I am confident that individuals and businesses will see improvement in their living standard in the medium to the long-term run.
The ICAN president makes a suggestion on how he believes the federal government can tackle the nation's economic challenges.
National Economic Recovery Team, they should carefully select the people that will do it. When they finish it, government should not drag. They should implement their decisions. If they do that, whatever happens is a decision of Nigerians. So we should set up a committee. It shouldn't be a jamboree. It shouldn't be and they should pick the people who can represent well. It is not a committee to find job for the boys.
The managing director of the Ministry of Finance Incorporated, Mr. Armstrong Takang, also lent his voice to the reforms of government in reshaping the economy.
We're increasing how much resources we're putting into the system to increase production. We're also increasing the level of interventions for small and medium-sized businesses and for some manufacturing companies to make sure that we can drive production. Because ultimately, in order for us to address the challenge that we face as an economy, we need to increase the level of production.
For years, the annual conference of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Nigeria has served as a platform for meaningful dialogue on national and global issues. It is expected that recommendations from this year's conference will chart a course that will strengthen Nigeria's governance systems and improve the economy. Still ahead on the news at 10, major telecommunication. Welcome back. You're still watching the news at 10 on Channels Television. We head over to Abuja studios now, where Terry Ikumi is standing by to give us more. Hello, Terry.
Well, hi, Anne. The central bank is restating its commitment to ensuring funding of businesses owned by women. The governor of the Apex Bank, Mr. Olayemi Cardoso, made the statement at a signing of the Declaration of Commitment for the Women Entrepreneurship Finance, a World Bank initiative in Abuja. Mr. Cardoso explains that 75% of women's potential market for businesses in Nigeria remains unserved. He, however, says that with more commitment from the bank and other development finance institutions in the country, the narrative will soon become a thing of the past. Now, one of the key voices in the education sector, Mr. Sonny Roche, has called for true federalism and democratization of the education system in Nigeria if the standard must be restored. Mr. Roche was a guest lecturer at the 64th Founders' Day celebration of University of Nigeria held at the university campus in Nsukka. titled Resetting the Falling Standards of Education in Nigeria, Addressing the Challenges and Embracing the Future. According to Iroche, government must grant universities autonomy, scrap the Joint Admissions and Matriculations Board, JAMB, alongside the university quota system. He believes that these issues, when addressed, will also help in expunging mediocrity in the education sector, restore its glory, and thrive beyond its shores.
Education all over the world is expensive. Education all over the world is the purview of the private sector. Now, government cannot fund the public universities and federal secondary schools they've taken over, and private universities are sprouting up with the fees that can make them break even and become profitable. No one goes into any business to be Santa Claus or Father Christmas, and federal government must democratize education and allow those universities to go on their own and charge whatever fees they want to charge, because right now, with the devaluation of the Naira, most of those privileged children and families who send their kids abroad are now bringing them back.
As part of its corporate social responsibility commitment to enhancing lives through health initiatives, First Exploration and Petroleum has signed a groundbreaking 3-year partnership with Healthy Heart Foundation, the non-profit arm of First Cardiology Consultants. Speaking in Abuja at the signing ceremony, the chairman of the board of First Exploration and Petroleum, Mr. Henry Ajumogobia, says the partnership is predicated on providing specialized health services to persons who are unable to afford such quality Medicare.
It's a serene atmosphere as officials of the First Exploration and Petroleum, led by the chairman of the board, converge on this hall to sign a partnership agreement with Healthy Heart Foundation, the non-profit arm of the First Cardiology Consultants.
In this vision,
the chairman of the board of First Exploration and Petroleum sets the tone for the event as he hopes in partnership that works.
The partnership is based, and I'm sure we'll hear more about this, is based on the fact that a lot of people who have been to First Cardiology with heart problems cannot afford the services to cure the problems.
With over 8 surgeries already done, the managing director of the First Cardiology Consultants and co-founder of Healthy Heart Foundation provides an overview of the partnership.
Everything was expensive and the Naira kept getting worse and people just couldn't afford it. And you can't just watch people say you have a heart attack, you need this, you need that, and just watch them die.
The Minister of Health applauds the partnership, highlighting the impact on the nation's disease burden.
The fastest growing segment of our burden of disease is the non-communicable diseases, hypertension, diabetes, cardiovascular diseases, strokes.
After the speeches, the commemorative partnership launch is signed. Medically challenged Nigerians are the target of this partnership.
I was diagnosed with mitral valve prolapse around 2009, and my cardiologist referred me for heart surgery around 2015-2016. So I went there and the surgery was done free of charge.
This Heart Foundation, they have done a lot into my life. Though I'm a Muslim, I know it's God. When I will die, I will die. No surgery, nothing will stop it. But I believe somebody has to do something to make you feel fine. And that is the FCC.
With a target of over 360 beneficiaries, the company hopes to provide a grant to the Healthy Heart Foundation over 3 years to enable the foundation double its previous annual reach.
And that's it from the nation's capital. Back to Anne in Lagos for the rest of the news.
Thank you very much, Terry. And so other stories now, still in the world of business, the quest to increasingly enable access to quality education. The MTN Nigeria Foundation has now handed scholarships and more to over 1,000 Nigerian students, including the visually impaired, from various tertiary institutions in the country. The foundation, as part of its 2024 MTN Scholarship Awards, will also provide mentorship, networking opportunities, and coding and digital skills to the students' beneficiaries. The executive director of the foundation, Odoayo Soya, disclosed this at the 2024 MTN Scholarship Awards ceremony for students' beneficiaries in Lagos.
Established in 2010, the MTN Scholarships program is hosting government officials, partners, parents, award and scholarships recipients for the annual MTN Scholarships Award, which recognizes and rewards high-performing students in Nigerian public tertiary institutions. The award, which is in 3 categories, include science, technology and mathematics, STEM students, visually impaired students, and the top 10 UTME scoring candidates studying any course in Nigeria from 100 entry level to graduation. But that's not all.
We are graduating 380 scholars whose achievements are not only a reflection of their potential, but also a contribution to the development of our great nation and beyond.
And then comes an array of goodwill messages and testimonies.
My coming is a testament of the administration to let you know that we have recognized that as a government we cannot do it alone. So when we see organizations like MTN doing it, the only thing we can do is to be there to support you, to stand beside you, and to hold your hand and say we are partners in this.
I can see the MTN candle lighting thousands of other candles. This is what MTN did for me.
And they are about to take their own pledge.
Next is the induction of graduating scholars into the MTNF scholarship alumni community, the awards presentation, and is followed by a moment where beneficiaries receive cash alert real time. Executive Director of the foundation, Dennis Okoro, advises the beneficiaries to remain circumspect.
Students should not try to eat their future today. Postpone any indulgence, any luxury.
The MTN Foundation says it has invested over 3 billion naira in awarding a total of 13,717 scholarships to almost 5,000 students from inception to date.
Next on the news at 10, U.S. Welcome back. We have more stories in the world of business. Here's Dominic Iwiwu.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Anne. On business news, amidst the controversy which involves Starlink and the alleged unapproved increase in tariff, local operators in the telecommunication industry are asking for approval to increase tariff. The Group Managing Director of VDT Communications, Mr. Abiodun Omoni, who was a guest on Business Morning, says that if this is not effected timely, the quality of services may be affected over time. Nigerians today woke up to an estimated 12.7% rise in the cost of premium motor spirit, also known as petrol. The price jumped from 868 naira to 998 naira per litre for Lagos residents, while pump price at fuel stations in the Federal Capital Territory climbed to 1,030 naira per litre. This latest development triggered queues at fuel stations, particularly NNPCL outlets, whose prices have been relatively low than other outlets, just as vehicles could be seen on long lines at the NNPC stations. In the meantime, the Nigerian Labour Congress NLC has demanded an immediate reversal of the recent hike in petrol price in a statement titled "What Next After Increase in Petrol Price?" The Labour President Joe Ajero argued that it is an aberration for a private company such as the NNPCL to fix the prices of a market force-driven commodity. The domestic bourse extended the previous day's loss as sell pressures on some high-value equities drove the all-share index lower amid decline in the volume of activity in today's trading session. John Mekwa tells us more.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, for a second day this week, we see a red market at the NGX. 56 billion naira is what the market lost, but we're still retaining the 56 trillion naira level. We look at the all-share index. It's not as bad as yesterday, 0.10%, compared to what we had at the close of trade yesterday. 97,000 is still the level that we have for that 97,000 points. The figures did it today. 4 of them were down, a lot of profit taking on them. And so we see FBN Holding, UBA, GTCO is unchanged, but Accessco, Zenith Bank, so they drove the market down at the close of today. Look at the counters. Unexpectedly, banking counter is in the red. Obviously, if the figures are down, then that counter will be down. 0.67% down there. Consumer goods recovered from yesterday because of international breweries, 0.31%. Oil and gas are still retaining that red color, and today, Tana Oil has joined O&O and Japol Gold, driving the counter down. So for a second time this week, we see the face of the bear.
Now let's have a look at snapshots of other major global stock markets closing figures for Wednesday. And that's it on business news. Back to Anne for the rest of the news at 10.
Banking, so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Dominic. Now let's take around the world in 5. Here's Simon Pise with more international news.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Millions of people in Florida are rushing to leave their homes as Hurricane Milton races towards the state's west coast. Milton, a Category 4 storm, is expected to hit the Tampa area tonight, packing ferocious winds of up to 165 miles per hour. This is the 11th hour, officials have said, urging people in evacuation zones on Florida's west coast.
This could be the worst storm hit Florida in over a century.
US President Joe Biden warned that leaving was a matter of life and death as the state undertakes its largest evacuation effort in years. The storm is on a rare west to east path through the Gulf of Mexico and is likely to bring a deadly storm surge of up to 10 feet or more to much of Florida's Gulf Coast. It comes less than 2 weeks after Hurricane Helene hit the Gulf Coast as a Category 4 storm, killing at least 225 people across Florida, Georgia, South Carolina and North Carolina.
Please listen to evacuation orders. Please listen to your local officials, because I know a lot of folks out there have survived these hurricanes before. This one is going to be very, very serious. And I urge you to please just grab whatever you need. Listen to the orders you're getting from your local officials. They know what they're telling you, and they know what Milton is about to be.
Emergency services say 2 people have been killed by rocket fire in northern Israel. A man and a woman have been killed in Kiryat Shmona, a border town in the northeast of Israel. That's according to Israel's emergency service. Israel's military says 20 rockets were fired into the area. Meanwhile, the UN's Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says a quarter of Lebanese territory is under Israeli military displacement orders. Around 1.2 million people have been displaced in Lebanon since Israel began intense airstrikes last month. North Korea will sever road and railway access to South Korea from Wednesday in a bid to completely separate the two countries. Its military said the North would permanently shut off and block the southern border and fortify areas on its side. The Korean People's Army described the move as a self-defensive measure for inhibiting war, claiming it was in response to war exercises in South Korea and the frequent presence of American nuclear assets in the region. It marks an escalation of hostility at a time when tensions between the Koreas are at their highest point in years. Cameroon's president is in excellent health, senior officials have insisted, after a long public absence stoked widespread speculation about the 91-year-old leader's condition. President Paul Biya has not been seen in public since the 8th of September, when he attended a China-Africa forum in Beijing. He has since missed events he was scheduled to be at, such as the United Nations General Assembly in New York. But in a statement, the head of Cameroon's civil cabinet said Biya was well and condemned the mischievous individuals speculating about the president's health. The statement came after days of opposition parties and civil society groups calling for information on Biya's health and exact whereabouts. A Nepalese teenager has broken the world record for the youngest mountaineer to summit Earth's 14 highest peaks. Nima Rinji Sherpa stood atop Tibet's Mount Shishapangma at about 6:05 a.m. local time on Wednesday. In doing so, the 18-year-old became the latest of just a few dozen people to have scaled all of the world's 8,000ers, the 14 mountains that the International Mountaineering and Climbing Federation recognizes as more than 8,000 meters above sea level. Sherpa, who started climbing high-altitude mountains at the age of 16, summited all 8,000ers in 740 days. And Berlin Zoo has welcomed 2 new, as-yet unnamed panda cubs. Until now, the twins and their mother, Mung Mung, have been cared for behind the scenes at the Panda Garden, out of sight from zoo visitors. The cubs spent their first 5 days of life taking turns cuddling and drinking milk from their mother every hour. Without human help, one of the cubs likely would not have survived, because giant pandas usually only raise 1 cub when they give birth to twins. China has gifted nations with its unofficial mascot for decades as part of a panda diplomacy policy. There are around 1,800 pandas living in the wild in China and a few hundred in captivity worldwide. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the Channel's studios in Lagos.
Thank you, Simon. Welcome to Sports News. Home-based Super Eagles team will go head-to-head with Ghana in a second-round clash of the 2025 African Nations Championship qualifier. The first leg is scheduled to take place in Accra between December 20th and 22nd, while the return leg will be held in Nigeria between December 27th and 29th. The aggregate winner will secure a spot in the tournament, which will be jointly hosted by Kenya, Uganda, and Tanzania. Super Eagles midfielder Wilfred Ndidi has promised that his team will not be complacent when they face Libya in Group D match of the African Cup of Nations qualifier in Uyo on Friday. Nigeria lead the group on 4 points from 2 matches, while Libya has 1 point. In Wuhan, Coco Gauff followed up a China Open title in Beijing on Sunday with a smooth 6-1, 6-2 win over Victoria Tomova to reach the 3rd round. Gauff has a 7-match winning streak and faces 13th seed Marta Kostyuk in the last 16. Kostyuk received a walkover after her opponent, Amanda Anisimova, withdrew with a hip injury. In Shanghai, Novak Djokovic finished off Russian Roman Safulin 6-3, 6-2 in 73 minutes to reach the quarterfinals for a 10th time. The record 4-time champion is aiming for a 100th tour-level title. If Djokovic lifts the trophy in Shanghai, he would become the 3rd man to achieve this feat in the Open era. That sports is back to you, Anne.
Thank you, Chris. And the main news again. The Senate today asked state and local governments to immediately comply with the